So lately I've seen a lot of comments of you guys asking what is a duende. Think of dwarves, leprechauns, elves. I know that these duendes have different names and exist in different countries. Personally, I have only ever heard of duendes from Mexico or Latin America. I've personally have seen a duende once and hopefully it stays that way, but the best way that I can describe to you what I saw. Have you seen that movie Leprechaun? Thankfully, I did not see a face, but like the silhouette of what I saw is exactly like the silhouette of Leprechaun. Now, what do duendes do? We've heard stories about duendes being troublemakers. They will hide things inside of your house. Some people say that if you ask them nicely for it, you will find it again. However, there are stories of people being taken for days by duendes, and once they come back, they have no memory of those days that they were gone. In Mexico, a lot of people think that duendes are children that passed away without being baptized. Now, don't attack me, this is just what people say. Again, there's so many different ideas that people have of duendes and theories and things that happen. Some people even go out looking for duendes. You can literally buy one and ask it for money, for a job, for love. I wouldn't dare to do that, but I know people have done that and things actually come true. There's also people who claim that duendes seek out babies or small children. Some people say that if they think that the parents are mistreating these babies or kids, they will try to take the kid away. Now, what exactly do they think bad parenting is? Who knows? Because, I mean, would we trust them? They're kidnapping children. Anyway, I hope that you can get an understanding of what they are. I'm sure there's so many other things that I'm missing here. So for the people who know what duendes are and have some kind of insight, please leave it in the comments for everyone else to hear. With that being said, I'm about to play all the duende videos and stories that I've gathered. So yeah, sit back, relax, and listen to this entire video of duende stories. A duende is a humanoid figure of folklore with variations from Iberian, Ibero-American, and Filipino cultures, comparable to dwarves, gnomes, or leprechauns. In Spanish, duende originated as a contract of the phrase dueño de casa or duende casa, effectively master of the house. In the Hispanic folklore of Mexico and the American Southwest, duendes are known as gnome-like creatures who live inside the walls of homes, especially in the bedroom walls of young children. They attempt to clip toenails of unkept children, often leading to the mistaken removal of the entire toe. I'm gonna show you some videos of people capturing duendes on camera. The first video I'm showing you is the very first video I ever saw on YouTube with somebody posting about a duende. Long ass time ago. Basically, it's just kids playing around and then they see something. Pay attention back here. I don't know why I got chills. Okay, this next video I think is in Spanish, but basically this guy's taking a video of his dogs and then the phone starts ringing, so he points the camera towards the lady telling her to answer the phone. Just watch.
Aquí tenemos a la chocolata. Y aquí, ahí está el teléfono.
Okay, this next video is of a family who claims that there's duendes all over their house, but have never captured them until now. This one really creeps me out so bad. Okay, so this next video is the only video that I'm like really sus about. Apparently this guy caught a duende, and let me just show you. Like, what is going on, right? But look how small it is, like, and how it walks. Is it a girl? Is it a duende? I don't know, but it's definitely creepy. Okay, so in this next video, these guys are just playing hacky sack, and watch what happens.
Dale. Nah, pero eso muerto. No te vas a hacer nada.
Like, he wanted to run, but his legs said no. I feel like if this happens to me, it would be the same thing. Like, my legs would betray me. Okay, so in this next video, it's people exploring like an abandoned place, but watch right about here. This is why you guys will never see me exploring abandoned places. Okay, so in this next video, this lady knows that there's duendes in her house and she starts antagonizing them. Duende. She saw that sandal move and instantly regretted that. A user on Reddit asked people if they've ever had any encounters with duendes. 2 stories from 2 different people on 2 different coasts, but both Mexican. My neighbor back in Angelino Heights, Los Angeles told me he and all the kids out playing saw a little creature fall from the sky. Just fall into view, like not necessarily the sky. After a moment, he said it like spun around like the Tasmanian devil and disappeared. In New York, I was a bouncer. This hostess first asked if I believed in the supernatural, which I do. She told me she lived in a small town in Mexico. Anyway, her little brother met some little elf-type creature that he would play with. The creature invited him to come to his land and he agreed. He fell into some sort of coma. Long story short, they got him to come back before he died. No one could find anything wrong with him. The hostess told me these creatures steal your soul by taking you to their world. She stopped short of saying they were malicious, but due to the consequences, it is dangerous to interact with them. Hearing similar experiences from different sources sealed it for me, and also classifies the entity as tied to Mexico or Central and South America. No one else has described anything like this. Not me, but my dad. When he was a child, he said it was after a funeral service and all the kids ran back home, and my dad stayed behind, so he decided to run after them. As he was running, he passed by a house that was dark. He heard the little pss pss whispers, and where he looked there was a group of duendes, but the girl one came to him and calling him to get closer to her. As he was getting closer to her and ready to touch her, out of nowhere a man yelled at him and asked him what he was doing. With that distraction, he looked back where the duendes were and they were gone. He said after that he got really scared and stopped eating, couldn't sleep, didn't talk, and he was just terrified of everything. My grandma saw this and she didn't like how he was behaving or how he was looking. My dad is dark-skinned man, but apparently my grandma saw him pale. So she took him to a healer and started cleansing him with an egg. And he still remembers that every egg she would use, it would crack on him. The healer told my grandma if she would have taken another day or so, the duendes would have taken my dad's mind or soul. I don't really know the details. He's way better now, but after everything, he respects them and doesn't trash talk about them. I used to live in an apartment complex with my 3 sisters, mom, and stepdad. We knew our apartment was weird as we experienced doors closing, things falling over, noises, and even glimpses of black dogs and such. One day, we heard noises from the attic. The only accessible way to the attic was through an opening in the hallway right outside my parents' bedroom. And to get to it, you either need a ladder or climb in the closet. My stepdad was investigating and climbed up to open the door to the attic, and he stopped. He looked down at me and asked to look inside the bedroom and tell him what I see. Now, from this angle, you can look directly into my parents' bedroom and right at the TV that sat on the dresser at the far corner. With the TV off, I could see the reflection of my parents' bed and realized there was something off. A small person standing on their bed, no movement, just standing and staring. When I peered my head into the room to look at the bed, there was nothing, even the reflection was gone. Later that day, we heard more sounds, but it was later in the afternoon. With my stepdad opening the attic door, we climbed up and we noticed the attic door had small shoe prints on it. We couldn't explain what the fuck. We took photos, but they're all at my parents'. As you all know, a lot of shit happens in my mom's house, so we're pretty much used to it, but that doesn't mean we don't get freaked out. So he was already in bed asleep, and he said that he felt something shake his bed. So when he felt that shake, he woke up and started hearing the dogs barking outside. So he picked up his phone and started recording, and this is what he got. Obviously, me being Letty and being the curious person that I am, I started changing the video that my brother sent me, like the exposure. I noticed that it was a recording. I'm fucking scared right now. He recorded the window, obviously, but I was like, let me change the exposure and see if I see anything. Regrets. So I texted my brother. I'm like, dude, I just put the exposure of the video all the way up. What the fuck is on your window? It looks like a little person, or do you have a stuffed animal there? Answer me. I'm on the edge of my seat. He laughs because obviously, why does he have a stuffed animal? But he says, no, I never have anything on my window. So I'm like, what the fuck is that then? He says he never saw that. And just as a reminder, this is his window, this big window. This is his bed where he sleeps. What the fuck is this? What is this? I'm gonna play you the video again, and I need you to pay attention to what is in front of the window. I changed the exposure of the video. Just watch it. What is this? Right here. What is that? What is this? I have my fucking theories, but okay, so people have claimed to see duendes in my mom's house. I've never, ever seen them. This is the only thing that I can think of. He is telling me that he never saw it when he recorded the video. And there should be nothing in front of his window. Again, this is his fucking window that he just took a picture of today. So what is that? Also, doesn't it look like it's inside, like inside the room and not like on the outside? You guys have been DMing me on Instagram. There people think this is also a tree, and this is not a tree. I made my brother send me an actual picture, like just take a picture outside of his window at night. As you can see, there's like no trees right next to his window. That's like far away along the fence, and that thing, whatever it was standing right here. Also, the reason why he never saw something there was because the point of that video was for me to hear like that someone was knocking on his window. So he never really looked at the video he took. He was mainly just like listening to the video. I also didn't see anything until I like posted the video and I was like, wait, I think I saw something there. I got another DM where someone slowed down the video and they say that something moves here like when it knocks. I'm gonna play that for you right now. Today we're going to be talking about this video that I found. It has something to do with duendes. This video was taken by the little girl's dad because he wanted to show his family how she likes to play in the drawers. After he posted this video to his family, somebody pointed out something strange right about here. Did you guys see it? If you didn't, I'm gonna slow it down for you. At the time, the father said that he never saw anything in the video until he posted it online. He also mentioned that she out of nowhere just started playing there and he thought it was the funniest thing ever. And in case you didn't catch it, let me play it one more time. That cannot be an animal. That is not a cat or a dog. There was no kids around. That looks like a little hand. And being that duendes love to play with kids, they're thinking that this is a duende. Also, the fact that she is not scared, like that could lead me to believe that this duende has been playing with her for a while. Anybody else watching cartoons tonight before they go to bed? Do any of you believe in duendes? I have a personal story to tell you, but in order for me to give you that story, I kind of have to go back in time. It's around 1993-94, and it was me, my two siblings, my mom and my dad, and we all shared a room inside my grandmother's home. Obviously, I was there, but like I was little, so this story was told to me by my mom. So it's the middle of the night, and my dad wakes up my mom freaking out. He tells my mom that one of us grabbed his toe and bit it. My mom said that she tells him that's impossible because all of us were right next to her asleep at the top of the bed and not even like at the foot. So there's no way that any of us would have gotten up just to bite his toe. First of all, dude, I don't want your toes in my mouth. What the hell? They turned the lights on. They saw that all of us kids were still asleep on the bed. It wasn't any of us. So they thought it was a duende. And good for the duendes because he deserved it. Anyway, that story always stuck with me. Like, my biggest fear is something like grabbing my foot in the middle of the night, so no thank you. By the way, the only reason why they thought they were duendes is because we'd had another incident where my uncle had seen a duende and chased it with his pew. Stuff like that always seemed to happen at my grandmother's home, which by the way, if you've been following me for a while, my grandmother's home is also now my mom's house because after she passed, she bought it and relocated it to where it's at right now. So cut to 2021. So again, same house, different location. It was 2021. I had just gotten married to Ben, and my mom decided to throw us a little party with just our family and friends. This party was going on outside, so anyone who went in, it was just like to go to the restroom and stuff like that. So it got really late at night, and my husband came up to me and he's like, I need to tell you something, but I'm not gonna tell you till tomorrow. And I was like, okay, that's weird, but fine. And the next day we were gonna drive back to Austin where we were living. So the party's over, and I had a sleep mattress that I put in my mom's living room. I was ready to go to bed, and in comes my little brother and my husband, and I hear them talking about like duendes and ghosts and shit like that, and I'm ready to lay down, and all of a sudden I hear my husband go, oh, I don't care about that, I'm not scared of them. What? As soon as he said that, I knew something was gonna happen that night, because one, if you're Mexican, you know that you don't taunt shit like that, and two, if you grew up in that house, you know that you shouldn't taunt shit like that. As soon as he said that, I swear, it took me back to that time where my dad thought of the one day bit his foot, and I was like, no, we are not cuddling tonight. My feet are gonna stay on my side tonight. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to share a blanket with you. I don't want them to confuse us, okay? Not to mention, it was so important for me to get some sleep that night because we were leaving to Austin at 6 in the morning, and I was gonna have to drive, and I hate driving tired because I have a fear of falling asleep behind the wheel, and it's like, no, I need my sleep. So we go to sleep, and as I'm drifting off, finally falling asleep, I hear just like something being thrown in our direction. So it wakes me up. And that didn't just happen once. Every time I was right about to fall asleep, something gets thrown at our direction. And when I tell you, it sounds like, at first it sounded like maybe like little balls, like lemons or something being thrown at us. And then it escalated to like those big tumbler cups, like that loud of a throw in our direction. My husband woke me up around 3 or 4 in the morning telling me that something was grabbing his toe. He said it felt like a little kid had held onto his toe and was just like squeezing it. Mind you, I hadn't even told him that story. I made a mental note, but I had never told that story to my husband. Like, why would I need to tell him that story? I didn't get rest at all that night. At all. And I was pissed. Like, I wasn't even scared at that point. I was angry that whatever the hell was bothering us just wouldn't let me go to sleep. I ended up just saying fuck it. It was like 5 in the morning. I was like, let's go, we're leaving. I'm not getting any sleep, we have to go. So I wake my mom up just to tell her that we're leaving, and I tried to tell her as quickly as I could why, and she was just like, really? Like, no, I didn't hear anything. No one heard anything. So we leave, and while we're on the road, it's like still dark. It's 5 in the morning. My husband finally decides to tell me that thing that he said he was gonna tell me during the party, but didn't want to tell me then and there. So he tells me that during the party, he had to go to the restroom, so he went inside that house. And as he's walking in, he sees a little kid from the back. He sees the kid walking from the living room past the restroom into my little brother's room, and he was like, oh shoot, the kid maybe needed to go to the restroom, but he accidentally went to my little brother's room. So he said he goes to my brother's room, opens the door, and there's no one in there. And he was like, what the hell? So he goes outside, and mind you, there's only 3 kids at this party. 3. All 3 kids are outside. So he goes to my brother and my stepdad, and he's like, I think I just saw something inside the house. I swear it went to your room. So they all go back inside with him, and there is no one in the entire house. Nobody. My husband said that the kid had like a hoodie, like a all black, like coat looking hoodie. It's March. Nobody's wearing a hoodie in the fucking valley. It's like 100 degrees. So they all came to the conclusion that he saw a duende. And then he didn't tell me anything that night, but he also decides to come in and say, oh, I'm not scared, and then something's grabbing his toe. I looked at him and I was like, this is all your fault. You fucking saw something and you still decided to say that you weren't scared, and it's okay to not be scared, but like, you can't say that. That's like almost taunting the thing, and it's like, oh, you're not scared, let me fuck up your whole night. Just side note, I am completely aware that I sound like a crazy ass person every time I tell this story to someone, which is why I never wanted to tell it here. But like, it's so unbelievable, and I know that. Like, I wish I was making this shut up. This girl says that this happened to her 22 years ago. Her and her dad were going to go on vacation to their grandmother's home. She said that her and her dad stayed in her dad's childhood bedroom, and around 4 or 5 in the morning, she really had to go to the restroom. At the time, she was only 6 years old, and she was scared to go to the restroom by herself, so she tried to wake her dad up so that he can go with her. But when he woke up, he was like, no, you need to go to the restroom if you have to go. Like, don't be afraid, go to the restroom. In order to go to the restroom, she had to go through like a big U, and she really had to go, so she was like, I'm gonna run all the way there. She explains that her grandmother's house was really old and that the restroom didn't have a door. Instead, they would use a big piece of wood, and if you saw that wood on the door, that meant that somebody was in there. But if that piece of wood was to the side, then obviously no one was in the restroom. When she gets to the restroom, she notices that that piece of wood is at the door, and she really had to pee, so she started knocking, and she clearly heard when someone said, it's occupied. She says she really had to pee, so at that point she was just like dancing in circles, trying to hold her pee in. She said that she got to the point where she just like couldn't hold it in. Like, she started knocking again, like, please hurry, I have to pee. But at that point, no one responded to her. She then started to think, like, what if I thought I heard someone saying occupied and someone just accidentally left that piece of wood there when they got out of the restroom? So she decided to remove that piece of wood because she really had to pee. And when she did that, the light wasn't on, but the light of the moon was coming in from the window to the restroom. She said that on top of the toilet was this thing, like a shadow scrunched over, and when it saw her, it went that's when she realized she was looking at a duende. And in that split second, the duende jumped from the top into the toilet, touched that flush handle, and went down in the toilet. Are we not safe in the toilet anymore? Like, what if he wants to come back up? Actually, poor duende if he wants to come back up. She said that that was the last thing she remembered until the next day when she woke up. She says that when she wakes up, she is surrounded by her aunts, uncles, her dad, her grandmother, and this is what her grandmother tells her. When she woke up around 5 in the morning and was trying to get her dad to go to the restroom with her, she heard her and heard when the dad told her, no, you go by yourself. In that moment, the grandmother's like, why is she so scared? And also, why is my son not taking her to the restroom? So it wasn't a big deal to her, so she decided to get up. Remember that the 6-year-old, she ran to the restroom and grandma was just walking after her. When grandma gets to the restroom, she saw the little girl just looking into the restroom. And when the grandmother got close enough to her to like grab her shoulders and like see what's going on, she actually fainted and fell to the ground. And yes, if you are curious, she did pee herself when she fainted. So the grandmother washed her, took her to her bedroom, and basically waited for her to wake up. When she wakes up that morning, she ends up telling everyone what happened, and that she said that the dad was like, oh, you're such a liar. You're just trying to make everybody feel bad for you because I didn't take you to the restroom. Stop lying. She said that nothing else happened. They finally went back home, and she kind of forgot about that instance. She said that 10 to 11 years had passed and they returned back to where their grandmother lived. And again, she says that that wasn't really in her mind. Like, she completely forgot about what happened to her with that duende. So while she's there again, she goes to hang out with her cousin, and her cousin has like some classes she needs to go to. So she decided to walk her cousin there. Before they get there and they're walking through this like park, her cousin's like, actually, I don't want to go to classes. What if I skip and we tell nobody? And they both agreed. However, when they were walking through that park, they saw a really big dog, and that dog started chasing after them to the point where she says that it wasn't even chasing her anymore, it was chasing her cousin, and she was terrified. Even when they made it out of there and the dog left them alone, her cousin was like terrified. Like, the parents ended up taking her to like a curandero, like somebody who does like spiritual cleanings, I think, and that is where they told them like the weirdest shit. She said that the curandero was working on her cousin and then was like, what is wrong with you? And she was like, what do you mean? He ends up saying, why are you attached to duendes? Mind you, years have passed. She had forgotten about this, and she was like, oh my gosh, like, she starts telling him what happened a while ago, and she tells him everything. And he tells her, you need to get baptized. If you don't get baptized, do not set foot back in that house because they're like attached to you. They want to take you. And that's how it ends. We don't know if she got baptized, but I'm just like, there's always been like this, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard it where like they say that the duendes like to take kids that are not baptized. Thank God I am, but guess who's not? My little brother that lives at my mom's house where there's duendes. I feel like I've already shared this story like years ago, but people have been asking me to tell them about the time that I saw a duende. I'm 33 and this happened to me when I was like 16 or 17. My gay besties at the time called me and asked if I wanted to go cruising. Do people even go cruising anymore? Oh my god. Anyway, they called me around midnight because they wanted to go cruising, and I was like, oh, should I wake my mom up? Should I not? Should I just leave? Here's the thing. I feel like if I would have woken her up, she would have been like, yeah, go. So I'm like, why am I gonna disrupt her sleep when I can just go and come back and she would have never even known that I was gone? So I snuck out of the house. So warning, if you're 15 or 16 and you sneak out of the house, you're gonna see a duende. That was dramatic, but like, yeah, just ask your parents for permission. Maybe that would bring some good vibes. So I grew up in San Benito, Texas, but like out in the middle of fucking nowhere. So obviously they had to go out to the middle of nowhere to like pick me up. And one of my friends lived similar to where I live, but like at a distance, and we were gonna pass by his house. So they're both in the front seat and I'm in the back, and we get to the street where he lives. So where he lives, the street kind of like curves into an S, and we're getting to that part where it curves, so the headlights point away from the street that you're about to hit. We're at that curve and he goes back onto the road. I'm not being dramatic, okay? I am not lying, but if you choose to not believe me, it's perfectly fine because I know how crazy this sounds. So when the headlights go back onto the road, I swear I see this tiny human-like creature, and as soon as the lights like hit, it turns into a dog. Okay, I'm pausing because I want to be very detailed as to what I saw. So once the light hit this creature, right, it wasn't just standing at the edge of the road. It looked like it was about to cross the road. So I saw it like walking, like it was trying to walk across the road, right? But once the light hit it, it immediately like almost transitioned into a fucking dog. I wish I could extract what I saw from my brain and fucking show you, because it was crazy. But yeah, it looked like it was about to cross the street, and maybe it was surprised by us, and then just it was a fucking dog. Like, how is that possible? But anyway, I just wanted to be detailed because I'm editing and I'm like, I feel like I need to tell them. But that's not even the worst part, because I feel like I could have lied to myself, like, oh, I was just seeing things, like it was a dog, what else could it have been? But in that fucking moment, what I saw kind of got to me, so I gasped and I was like, why the fuck did both of my friends in the front seat gasp at the same time that I fucking did? We all gasped at the same fucking time, to the point where my friend that was driving hit the brakes. There's no way I could have lied to myself then. Like, why did they react? Why did you hit the brakes? Why are we stopped in front of this dog, which I don't think it's a fucking dog, because I just saw it turn from a little creature into a fucking dog. So after gasping, stopping, looking at that fucking dog, we're all like, wait, what did you guys see? We were like, oh my god, like, did we see the same fucking thing? So my friend that was in the passenger side was like, wait, don't say anything. On a count of 3, we're each gonna say what we saw. And mind you, this is all happening while the headlights are still on the dog. So he was like, 3, 2, 1, and all of us say, a little person turning into a dog. And I'm like, a duende turned into a dog. We all said the same thing, maybe different ways, but like, that's what we all fucking saw. I hate that. I wish it was just like me seeing it. I'm like, that was a lie. I didn't fucking see that. So at that point, I'm realizing that we're still stopped. The dog is still in front, looking at us with the fucking headlights at it. And I was like, let's go. Like, I'm in the backseat by myself. No fucking thank you. So yeah, we leave the dog behind, but it's like, it was the craziest thing, and I can still picture it in my fucking head of like seeing that little being, and then in a split second it was a dog. Like, there's no way. And also, we all saw the same thing, so that's why I'm like, what the hell? Girl telling the story says that at the time she was 12 years old and her little sister was 10. She says that in Cuernavaca they only had one place where they can go shop around, and it was the Plaza of Cuernavaca. So on this day, her parents and her little sister decided to go to the plaza, and as they were walking through the plaza, they came across a kiosk that was selling like little duendes. She says that she remembers that each duende had like a different thing they can do for you. So like, one could bring you good luck, one can bring you a job, one can bring you love, like all of that stuff. She didn't think that her parents were gonna buy one, because honestly the duendes, she said, looked really ugly, and that her dad actually ended up buying one for money. Her mom did try to stop dad from buying the duende, but nevertheless he ended up buying it. So before they left the kiosk, the guy working there told them that they need to leave food out for the duende, that they had to leave out sunflower seeds and water. All of them were like, what the fuck? Because they're like, okay, yeah, sure. Because they were all like, what the fuck? Like, this is just like a little gnome. So even though they all didn't believe that this duende was real, the mom did go and end up buying some sunflower seeds to leave out for the duende. So that same night, they did end up leaving some water and the sunflower seeds for the duende and went to bed. When they all woke up and came downstairs, they noticed that the sunflower seeds have been eaten, like they would open and the seeds have been eaten. But mom was looking at dad and dad was looking at mom, and they're like blaming each other for trying to prank them and try to scare them. So the day went on and mom still thought it was dad and dad still thought it was mom. The following night, this family had 2 dogs that were outside, and in the middle of the night, they heard one of the dogs screeching like if somebody was hurting it. They were used to their dogs, so obviously they could tell like what kind of sound they were making, and she says that it was the kind of sound like if something was hitting the dog. So the parents went and go checked on the dog, and they thought maybe like a squirrel was fighting with the dog, so they brought him in. The parents really didn't give it much importance because they didn't see anything out there, so they just thought that maybe another animal was coming and bugging those dogs. So the following day, they all came downstairs, and again, those sunflower seeds looked like somebody had been eating them. And that same night, the dog was crying again like if something was hitting it. So again, they bring the dogs inside. They were thinking, wow, this is weird, but they really weren't giving it that much importance. Like, they just thought, again, there's an animal outside messing with the dog. So the following night is when her little 10-year-old sister gets up in the middle of the night and runs to her parents' room. So when her little sister wakes up her parents, they're like, what's going on? What's wrong? And the little sister tells them that she's hearing some sounds from underneath her bed. And the parents were like, there's nothing under your bed. And the little girl was crying and crying. So the dad, so that she could not be scared, he was like, let's go to your room and I'm going to show you there's nothing there. So they go to the little girl's room and he pulls the sheets and looks at her and says, see, there's nothing there. And the little girl points, and when he looks underneath, there are these sunflower seeds all under her bed, open like if somebody had been eating them. In that moment, the dad sent the 10-year-old to his bedroom, goes and wakes up the 12-year-old that's telling us a story as an adult now, and they're all on the king-size bed scared as fuck. The girl telling us the story says that her mom was the one who told her about this, but she remembers being woken up like around 3 or 4 in the morning, like not knowing what's going on, just knowing that she was gonna go to sleep in her parents' room. She said that she remembers that the little duende was in her parents' room, and she saw her mom grab it, put it in a trash bag, and throw it in the trash can. So the following morning, the mom was like, wait, I don't want to throw it in the trash, because she was scared that if she let it go to the trash, what if that duende came back again? So instead, she was like, I'm gonna go take it back to that guy at the kiosk. So they all go back to the guy at the kiosk, and the mom's like, hey, what is going on? Like, this is happening and this is happening. And the guy was like, oh yeah, it's because they like to play around a lot. So the guy ends up telling them, like, if you want to get rid of it, you would have to dig a hole in your yard, put it in that hole, and then it'll find like a different home. And the mom was like, hell no, I do not want this duende anywhere near my home, nowhere in the land. So she's like, I don't care, you're gonna keep it and we're gonna leave it here. And that's what they did. I just think it's crazy, like, they didn't attribute the duende to everything that was happening until like the sunflower seeds were under the little girl's bed. I'm not gonna lie, I love listening to duende stories, but some of them were just like, no, frick that. Because you imagine finding those sunflower seeds under your bed, but not just that, she was obviously hearing something underneath her bed. Like, the duende was just chilling under there, eating his sunflower seeds and scaring the fuck out of the 10-year-old. So there is this guy who noticed a lot of weird things happening around his home. He said that things would go missing and he would never find them again. And somehow he lost the keys to his house. He said that he couldn't find the keys, so he'd been like tying up the front door with a rope every time he left and came back. He also mentions that he literally cleaned his entire house. He swept the floors and mopped, and those keys never came up. So one day he's laying in bed and he says that he can hear like little kid feet like walking around. In that moment, he was like, oh my god, like there's duendes in my house and maybe they took the keys. So as he's listening to those like little steps, he says, hey duendes, if you have my keys, can you please return them to me? I really need them. He said that in that moment, the little footsteps just stopped altogether, and that after that, he didn't hear them again. The following day, he really had to go to work again, so again, he left and had to tie up his door with a rope. On his way back, he again removed the rope. Thankfully, no one would break into his home, and as he was walking into his bedroom, he opened the door, and the door hit something on the ground. He says that when he looked down to see what it was, it was his keys on the floor. He was so shocked because 1, it confirmed that the duendes were in his house, and 2, he swore that he cleaned his house up and down and that there were never keys behind his bedroom door. Now, he also mentions that the keys were full of dirt, almost like they had been buried somewhere and that they were taken out of the ground and taken back into his house again. I was checking my Instagram DMs and I happened to see Duende and immediately I clicked on it. So thank you, Ali Aguilar. I hope I'm pronouncing the first name right. She let me share this story with you guys. My family is from Veracruz, and I remember one time they told us a story about when a duende tried taking my cousin because he wasn't baptized, and ever since then I've been paranoid. My mom says that one night during Christmas Eve, my cousin was in a bassinet sleeping. The bassinet was on the couch that so happened to be next to the Christmas tree. My mom says duendes love being on trees. All of a sudden, they hear my cousin crying, and when they turn, she said my grandma, aunt, and her saw the duende pulling my cousin from the bassinet. She says they started cussing and yelling, but the duende wouldn't let go. It wasn't until my cousin saw it and she peed herself. According to my grandma, they don't like that, so he ran off. I always asked how it had so much strength to pull a baby. My grandma said they can take anything they want. Oh my god, they can take my fat ass. Actually, I think we just found a way to not get taken. Pee on yourself immediately. I am so sorry, but I mean, we do have a way now. If this is true and you're ever being attacked by a duende, pee yourself. Oh my god, I know it's kind of funny, but what the hell? A whole baby, what? This story is from a nurse in Ecuador. She had finished school and they had sent her to a clinic to work overnight so that she can get her hours. So when she works overnight, it's just her, a nurse, and the doctor, and like a security guard that stays in the front just in case anything happens. She usually works the hour from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning. And the night shift usually is very quiet. Nothing really happens until this one day where a family of mom, dad, and 2 daughters come in because the little girl had a bite on her arm. So the 2 little girls, the one with the bite mark looked like she was around 8, and the other one looked like she was around 4 years old. And the parents tell the nurse that she had gotten bit and they weren't sure by what because they thought it was maybe by the 4-year-old, and they had been taking care of her bite mark, but it looks like it's getting infected and they needed to see her. So she's trying to get all the information, the name, like everything. She had already seen a lot of bite marks, and that bite mark didn't look like it came from like an insect or like an animal. She just wanted to get more information from the family, but as she's trying to get the information, the other nurse that was there with her taps her on the shoulder and tells her to come outside of the room. So when she comes out of the room and she asks the nurse like, what's up, why are you bringing me out here? The nurse tells her that's a duende mark and the duende is gonna take that little girl. And she looks at her like, are you crazy? Like, what are you talking about? What duende? Like, she's looking around like, is it here with us? And the other nurse tells her, I saw that braid on the little girl, and those are the braids that the duendes put on the little girls and mark them, and they're gonna take that little girl. The nurse was like, and I'm sure that bite mark was probably from a duende. So she's taking in everything that the nurse is telling her, and she's like, well, at the end of the day, we still need to treat the bite mark because it could be infected. And the other nurse was like, no, you need to tell them to go home. Like, they need to leave. That's how scared that nurse was that it was a duende mark and that the duende is going to take that little girl. She was terrified. But the other nurse that's telling us the story is like, no, like, she needs to stay here until the doctor can see her. At the end of the day, like, that bite mark can get infected, the little girl can die, so we need her to see the doctor for that bite. And that's exactly what she did. She ended up putting the family in the room. However, the doctor was not there at that point. So she did explain to them that they were going to have to stay until the doctor came so that they can monitor the little girl. She starts talking to the parents because she wanted them to give her more information as to how this was caused or if the little girl had been acting different. And the mom was like, actually, yes, she recently started talking about a friend coming to visit her, and I thought maybe this is just an imaginary friend, like maybe she was having behavior issues or just an active imagination. She says that her daughter kept saying that she had a little friend that would come and visit her at night, but again, she just thought it was an imaginary friend because, you know, kids. So the nurse then decided to talk to the little girl and say, hey, can you tell me what happened to your your arm? Are you okay? And the little girl says, oh, my friend did this to me. He got mad at me and bit me. And the nurse is like, what friend? And the little girl says, he goes every night to the house, but my mom doesn't believe me. I see him every night, but when I don't listen to him, he gets really mad at me. She said that night she didn't want him to touch her hair, so when she moved her hair away from him, the friend bit her arm. So the nurse, getting more and more curious, she's like, oh, and what does your friend look like? And the little girl was like, well, he's really small, but he doesn't have faces like us. He looks like my old neighbor. She was trying to tell him that the little thing didn't look like them. He looked like he was old from the face, and her best explanation of that was like, he looks like our old neighbor next door. The nurse also thought to herself, what if she's just like covering up for her sister? Maybe her sister did bite her, but she doesn't want to tell her parents that it was her. So again, the nurse tells the family that they're gonna have to stay here because the doctor's not in yet, but they had given her medication and they just wanted to monitor her in case she doesn't get a fever or anything like that. However, the dad, he explains how he couldn't stay overnight because he had to work the next day. So he ends up going home and the mom stayed there with her 2 girls. So when the dad was leaving, the nurse started talking to the little 4-year-old girl and she was, telling her, hey, what happened? Maybe like the 4-year-old was gonna say, yeah, I bit her. But the little 4-year-old girl was like, no, my sister has a friend and he doesn't like me. The little girl went as far as to say that her sister's little friend growls at her, but I'm also scared that he's gonna come over here looking for her. And of course the nurse was like, no, he's not gonna come here. You guys are safe here. Whoever the friend is, he will not be coming here. She said that after that, they ended up getting like another bed for the mom and the little girl. So because they also had to wait for the doctor to come in, she tells the other nurse, hey, you should go take a nap while we have time because it's calm now. We're just waiting around for the doctor to get here. So the other nurse agreed that she was gonna go take a nap in the other room. So time passes and it's very like quiet when out of nowhere the nurse that had been taking a nap comes to her and says, hey, I think someone just broke in here. There's someone here. And she was like, well, where's the security guard? Because he's usually at the front. She's like, I went to go look for him first and he's not in the front. So her concern is the family. So she goes to where the family is and she says that the room doesn't even have a door. It just has a curtain. So she says that they're in there. They can hear that the mom's asleep. They're all asleep. And when she opens up the curtain, they look at the little girl and she has 2 additional bite marks on her arm. She says that the little girl was still asleep because they had given her like medication. She was like in between awake and asleep. So they looked at each other like, what the fuck? How does she have 2 additional bite marks? So the mom hears them and she wakes up and they're like, hey, like what happened? She has additional bite marks. And the mom looks at the daughter and she's like, I don't know what happened. So the 4-year-old also wakes up, just listening to them, sees the additional bite marks, and she starts screaming, I told you he was gonna come and find her. I told you guys. And the mom was like, no, like don't say that. What are you talking about? You need to calm down. So because the mom was so like, what the fuck do you mean the friend was coming? So the nurses managed to calm everybody down, but the lady admits that they were terrified. I mean, they had to be the ones to like calm the situation. They were in charge, but they could not make sense of any of it. And also they couldn't even go back to sleep. So they stayed up until that doctor came. So the doctor comes in and this doctor had been working there for years. And this clinic was like in the middle of a very, very small town. So he sees basically everybody there. And the doctor confirmed. He said that the duende was trying to take that little girl. The nurse who had just started working there, like she was kind of shocked. She was surprised. And he's like, once you start working here, you're gonna see things that may not have an explanation, but I've seen that bite mark before on other little girls. And he had to have that hard conversation with the mom, and the mom, she accepted it because what else could it have been? She was laying there next to her daughter when she got additional bite marks, didn't see anybody in the room. She had no other choice but to believe the doctor when he said that the duende had marked her daughter. So the doctor tells the mom that the only solution is to cut that braid out of the girl's hair. Actually, they cut the entire hair off of both of the little girls. He said that he had seen this before and that is what they did and it worked. But not just that, they also had to move away from their home because if they went back, the duende was gonna just do it again. So the nurse says that the family actually moved away. She said that the mom and the daughters moved first and the dad had to stay there because he had to work, but eventually he did end up moving and the duende never came back for the girls. She explains that after that the doctor told her that he had already dealt with this before and it's mostly always little girls that they get infatuated with and they try to take. The story comes from Brenda Soto on Instagram, but she gave me her TikTok handle, so I'm probably gonna tag her either in the video or in the comments or somewhere here. If you listen to my stories and imagine them like a movie in your brain, maybe try not to do it with this one. My mom would always take us to Durango, Mexico for our summer vacation, which is where our family is from. I was about 8 or 9 years old when my older sisters and cousins decided to play with the Ouija board. Of course, I wasn't allowed to go to their sleepovers. I would hear them the next day talking about how the board moved on its own, so I was very curious and I would beg my older cousin to please let me attend their sleepover. After begging her a few nights, and I guess they had decided to stop playing with the Ouija board, so she let me attend one of their sleepovers. Pues, that night, a light and giggles woke me up. I was in bed with my oldest cousin and my 2 sisters, and my other cousin was in the other bed. I sit up and I see a green light coming from outside the room. I got scared, but I didn't want to wake anyone up. Then I started to hear my name. Brenda. Brenda. Brendita. Then, my tia would call me Brendita, so I thought it was her. I go out to the kitchen and I see 2 duendes dancing on the Ouija board and I screamed. Woke the whole house up. When they turned on the lights, the Ouija board was alone, untouched, sitting at the kitchen table. Mind you, my cousins had put that board away because they didn't want me to touch it. I got in trouble for getting the board out. They never believed me when I told them I never touched it and I didn't even know where it was. I'm 35 now and I still remember their faces. It was not from this world. You need to tell them now. They must believe you now. You're 35. What the fuck? So did anybody else make the mistake of imagining that in their fucking head? Get it together. But like Duende and Ouija board in the same story, the duendes were dancing on the Ouija board.